what it means to be a fan of Marvel these days.
Marvel fans.
Listen, I am a solid Marvel fan. I have been for many years, but hey, the last couple of years have not exactly been their finest work.
We got to get you that Marvel fans hat.
Yeah, I need to get the Marvel fans hat. But I mean, and again, I know there's some people who think I'm just overly negative on Marvel right now, but again, whether you love Marvel before or hate Marvel or whatever, I think most of us can agree. I've said this before. I think most of us can agree that whether you love Marvel, hate Marvel, whatever, we agree that in the last year or two, it has not been their best work, right? We can agree on that, right? Like They've had a couple of things that they've knocked out of the park, but they've had more things than we're used to that have not been knocked out of the park. And so I think we can all at least agree on that. Well, of course, Bob Iger has come out and said, once he came back and took over the reins of Disney again, that they have oversaturated things, that they're going to start cutting back a little bit. And apparently, according to reports, that includes some franchises that Bob Iger thinks it's time to put to bed, including, according to this report here, movies like Ant-Man 4 and Captain Marvel 3, according to some online reports, are saying that those are now done. Not that there were any solid plans to do an Ant-Man 4 or a Captain Marvel 3, but the reports are saying those are done. Bob Iger is saying, look, those are just too questionable that they can actually make any money at this point due to the last results we had. Those are done. And then even a film like Eternals 2, according to the report, which Kevin Feige is very committed to doing, apparently he and Bob Iger are having some disagreements because Bob Iger is not so sure they should do an Eternals 2. Kevin Feige completely wants to do an Eternals 2. So according to the reports, while Ant-Man 4 and Captain Marvel 3 are just gone, they're off the board, they're saying Eternals 2 may be on hold at the moment, while Kevin Feige and Bob Iger try to work out whether or not to do that one in general. Now, these reports are consistent with some comments that Bob Iger made recently that we talked about on this show. Remember, Bob Iger said, listen, it's horrible when as a film studio you need to cancel projects at various points in their process of production. Some in the planning, some in production, some already done. He goes, that's a terrible thing, but you have to do what's right for the business. And Bob Iger said, we've actually very quietly killed a couple of projects that we haven't announced, that we haven't talked about yet. Not that they're projects you haven't talked about, but that we haven't talked about canceling these things. We've canceled some things that we haven't announced that we canceled yet. And having something like this come out saying like an Ant-Man 4 off the board, Captain Marvel 3 off the board, and even some debate now going on about Eternals 2, that goes right in line with what Bob Iger was saying. And listen, you never like to hear projects being canceled, right? At whatever stage of development, whether they're done production like Acme versus Coyote, or whether they're halfway through production, or whether they're still on the drawing board. But the reality is, when Bob Iger said that they have been oversaturating themselves, he was right. When he was saying that the quality has kind of taken second place to quantity, he's right. With the whole overall kind of feeling that we need to kind of hone in our efforts on the projects that we are making, not spread ourselves so thin, and make sure we have our best people working on our stuff and not bringing in people to work on projects we otherwise wouldn't have worked with, but we need them because we're doing all these extra projects. He's right. And listen, I am a big fan of the Ant-Man franchise. I love Ant-Man 1. Love it, love it, love it. What Peyton Reed did with that film, I think, chef's kiss. I was really entertained by Ant-Man 2. I didn't like it as much as Ant-Man 1, but I was really entertained by it. Woo, Ant-Man 3. Not so good. Not so good at all. But I don't say that they should be canceling or not be looking at Ant-Man 4 just because I didn't like Ant-Man 3, but it's because you've kind of done what you can do with Ant-Man, at least in his own projects. Like, I can still see Ant-Man as a very valuable ensemble character, like he was in Infinity War and Endgame and Civil War. I could still totally see him as a very active player in the universe. But as far as him carrying his own films, maybe it's not there. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Miracle Made. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. When they arrived at our house, my wife Ann loved the feel of them so much, she couldn't even wait for me to get home to put them on our bed. Miracle Made has self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. Miracle Sheets also have incredible comfort and quality. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to TryMiracle, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to TryMiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. I really enjoyed, I think Captain Marvel, the first one, was a mid Marvel film, so kind of in the middle, not on the bottom half of them, not on the top, but kind of right there in the middle. I enjoyed it. It was good for what it was. I even liked, barely, but I liked The Marvels. I didn't think it was a bad film, but I don't think you need to make movies about Captain Marvel. I think you can have Captain Marvel as a key player in the universe, but I don't think, and I think the box office numbers prove it, you don't do more of those. I do think they should do Eternals too. And I hope Bob Iger will listen to Kevin Feige on this, because even though the first Eternals did not exactly blow up the box office, I thought it was a very outside of the box for a Marvel movie. It was a very different feeling Marvel movie. I think you introduced some really cool mythology and some very interesting characters. I would like to see them do a second one. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But again, this is just a part of this overall train they're on right now of saying, we're going to start cutting back on the amount of stuff that we do. And he's right to do so.
It was like an overhaul. The overhaul, they called it. I mean, obviously Bob Iger is just looking at the numbers, right? He's saying, and he doesn't want to gamble on spending money on another shot. You know, the film should have made them money, and it didn't. So I understand where Iger is coming from. The Eternals thing, I liked Eternals too. I did like it, but
Rob loved it. Like, you know, Rob loved Eternals.
But how expensive was that cast? Maybe for them?
It couldn't have been a cheap cast.
Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of like, I kind of see both sides. I do want certain things. I would love to see a Marvels too. I like those characters. I mean, I like their camaraderie. I just don't know if it makes sense for Bob Iger, which it doesn't.
See, because I think if you're Bob Iger and you're talking to Kevin Feige, like, Bob Iger is not risk adverse, but you got to be smart about which risks you take. And I get the feeling that what Bob Iger would rather do is like, let's take risks on things we haven't tried yet, like Blade, right? Like Shang-Chi was, rather than continuing to take risks on things that we are not getting good returns on. Captain Marvel, Ant-Man 4. You know, if we're going to take risks, let's take risks on things that have potential big upside. Like when we rolled the dice on Guardians of the Galaxy, which were characters nobody had ever heard of. And we've made billions off of those movies. Let's take risks on new characters like Shang-Chi, which was, like, I think one of the best movies Marvel's done.
Where does Thunderbolts fall into that? Because it is returning characters, but from TV series. It'll be interesting to see.
No, a lot, like Winter Soldier is Bucky is definitely a movie. Yelena is definitely from the movies. Walker's from TV.
Yeah, but I love that dude now.
Then you have Ghost, who's from the movies. You have, I mean, most of the, you have Red Guardian, who's from the movies.
Harrison Ford's first appearance.
Harrison Ford will be his first appearance. So
it'll be interesting to see those numbers.
Mean, there was, you know, it's funny you bring up Thunderbolts, because recently there had been some whispers that some people thought that they were just going to scrap Thunderbolts, and then just this last week they started production. I think it was just this last week they started production. At any rate, so that Thunderbolts is definitely happening at this point. Because I think they were just considered too far along the way. But I know that was one of the ones that was in question. I'm really glad they're doing it, though. I'm looking forward to it.
I keep thinking about that cast, and I'm getting more and more excited.
The cast is so good.
Just Wyatt Russell and Florence Pugh and David Harbour. All their banter with each other in their characters. Oh my God, this might end up being the sleeper.
If this thing has a Guardians-esque, I'm not saying be James Gunn, but it has a Guardians-esque like wit and charm to it, and then the action pieces, the set pieces are like really fun.
Who's directing?
This thing's gonna be great.
Like here's the thing. I was notoriously down on the idea of Thunderbolts, and then they showed the lineup of who was in it, and I was like, okay, so we kind of figured Florence Pugh would be in there, and that was good. But when I saw that they put Red Guardian in there, who was the only really great thing about that Black Widow movie, I'm like, I've been dying to see David Harbour as Red Guardian back again. And you're going to have Bucky. And you got Walmart Captain America.
Come on, he's no longer Walmart.
Hey, you know what?
I love
He
Walmart
is still Walmart Captain America, and I love him for it. Because I hated him at first, but as that show progressed, I'm like, you know what? I'm really into him as Walmart Captain America now. And what did he end as? He ended as American Agent, right?
U.S. Agent.
U.S. Agent. And then I just saw this collection, and of course, then they brought Elaine in.
Yeah.
So the director is Jake Schreier?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't remember who was directing it, but you know what? I got excited about it, and I hope it keeps going. But it sounds like Bob Iger is just following through on what he said he would do, and I just hope, while I do want him to cut back, I really hope that he listens to Kevin Feige and that they do an Eternals too. I don't think Eternals was one of the top 5 best Marvel films or anything like that, but I thought it not only was it really good, I thought it represented a different dimension of the MCU that I think they need to explore more. So anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? According to these reports, like an Ant-Man 4 is now off the board. Another Captain Marvel standalone movie off the board. Eternals 2 still on the board, but on hold. I don't know. Do you like these moves? Do you question these moves? Is this a good overall philosophy and direction they're going in? Are they righting the ship? Or are they making things worse? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.